welcome into On the Clock podcast. I'm Tyler Rohlfs with my co-host Gannon Hanevold here. Gannon, how are you doing today?
I'm feeling great. You know, it's the NFL Draft Combine this week, and that's what you live for if you're an NFL scout, and I'm excited to really get into it.
We're going to break down the top 10 picks in the NFL Draft as we are the GM. So we're going to start off with the Cincinnati Bengals. I personally think it's a no-brainer here. They're going to have to take their franchise quarterback, Joe Burrow, coming off one of the absolute greatest single-season performances as a college quarterback in the history for LSU. National championship, Heisman winner. The Bengals are taking their guy, Joe Burrow, at number 1 overall.
I couldn't agree more. I think Joe Burrow is a franchise-changing prospect, and when you're the number 1 overall pick in the NFL Draft, that's exactly what you got to shoot for, and the Bengals got a surefire pick. I can't agree with that one more. And now I'm the GM of the Redskins. It seems pretty straightforward. Obviously, you're going to field trade offers here. Someone might want to trade up and grab a quarterback, but I think you got to grab the defensive changing prospect, and that is Chase Young, the defensive end out of Ohio State. He is the type of player that can turn a defense around the way Nick Bosa, I think, really shaped the Niners this year. I think he has that kind of potential to turn the Redskins around. They can't pass on him, so if I'm the Redskins, that's who I'm taking. It's Chase Young. They're going to see him in maroon and gold in Washington, D.C. next year.
Chase Young is highly believed to be the best player overall in this draft, so I think the Redskins do snag him. It would be a shame if they let him slip. The Detroit Lions at number 3 here. I'm going to go also with another Ohio State defensive player and Jeffrey Okudah, cornerback for the Buckeyes. He had an absolutely tremendous season, locking down the premier wide receiver threats across the nation. The Lions heavily struggled in the secondary this season, losing Darius Slay and other key assets. So the Lions are going to pick Jeff Okudah from Ohio State with the 3rd overall pick in the NFL Draft.
Yeah, Darius Slay has shown a little bit of unrest on social media, so it's possible he could get moved. But if he sticks around, that would be one of the best cornerback tandems in the league, and that's a position of premium right there. So I think that's a great pick for the Lions. Great move right there. Up next, we got the New York Giants. The Giants went offense last year. They drafted Daniel Jones in the 1st round to be their franchise quarterback. Still question marks on him, but you've got to let it ride out for a couple more seasons. So I think they look to the defensive side of the ball and take the most versatile player, not only in this draft class, but arguably in the last 3 or 4 draft classes. Isaiah Simmons. He comes out of Clemson, and he can play pretty much every position on the defense. You plug him somewhere, he can play. He's a safety. He's an outside linebacker. He can be a pass rusher and even a slot cornerback at times. He had some of the most interesting snap count numbers I've ever seen out of a college prospect, and I think he's going to crush it at the Combine this week, and he could go as high as 3. So if he's here at 4 for the Giants, I don't think they pass up on that. He's a generational talent in terms of versatility on the defensive side of the ball, and I think that's exactly what the Giants need. They're finding an identity offensively. They've got Saquon Barkley there, so defensively they need a face of the franchise, and Isaiah Simmons is that.
Yeah, New York is very young. They're going to be good for years to come. They got Jabril Peppers in that exchange for Odell in Cleveland. That defense will be young. It'll be stouted heavily. Like you said, Simmons is very versatile. He could play pretty much anywhere on the defense, from linebacker to safety to cornerback. Simmons is a great prospect to get at number 4. Coming up at number 5, we have the Miami Dolphins. Coming into the season, the Dolphins were slated to pretty much almost not win a single game. They were going to tank for Tua, was the continual phrase being used around the league. But Tua had the hip injury, so he's kind of fallen in the draft stock a little bit, and the Dolphins are still here. So I think the Dolphins are going to take Tua Tagovailoa here at number 5. He has some hip injury questions. He's going to be medically cleared on March 9th. He will hold his own pro day somewhere around early to mid-April. He's not going to participate in the NFL Combine, but I think the Dolphins, a team that really didn't prove much this past season, going to need a quarterback. They have journeyman Ryan Fitzpatrick, who won a couple games for them, but he's getting up there in age, and you definitely want a franchise quarterback. And Tua, what we saw from him in college is absolutely amazing. The combination of his mobility, his accuracy, his leadership, his championship mentality, and his overall winning mindset is something that is not easily found. So while this draft class might be stacked with quarterbacks and potential, I think Tua has a chance to be the greatest quarterback from this draft class. So I don't see the Dolphins passing up on him at number 5. Tagovailoa is going to Miami.
Things couldn't have worked out better for the Dolphins. They were able to string together a couple wins for the momentum, a little bit of a morale boost late in the season, possibly build a little bit of faith in head coach Brian Flores. So I think things worked out great for them. Plus, the hip injury by Tagovailoa will allow him to slide to them at 5. So everything worked out great for Miami fans. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Tua jerseys in teal seen around the stadium next year. Up next, this one's going to be tough for you to hear, Tyler. I know you're a Chargers fan, but I am going to go the quarterback route here at 6. I think it's very possible that someone trades up before the 5 spot and takes someone like Tua or the guy I'm about to take right now, Justin Herbert. But if he's there, the Chargers have to take him. They're in a quarterback predicament, and he is simply the best prospect on the board at that position. Justin Herbert got all the physical tools to be an elite quarterback in the NFL. The question is his decision-making there? We were able to see it firsthand when he came to Tempe to take on the Sun Devils late in the season, threw 2 interceptions in the second half that were absolutely crucial. He struggled at times this year, but ultimately he found his moments. Against Auburn, he performed pretty well. He was able to throw against an SEC secondary, which is always something that a Pac-12 quarterback has to be able to prove because the Pac-12 defenses are usually suspect. And even late in the season, he took on Utah, who has a very good defense, and he handled them as well. So I think the tools are there for Justin Herbert to be a very successful quarterback, and he could be the one that gets lost in the shuffle with Joe Burrow and Tua ranked above him. Those two guys are transcendent in the way that they have performed, but I think Justin Herbert could be a steal. High risk, high reward prospect. Chargers can't pass on him with the quarterback situation they're in, and I think that's what they got to do, and that's what's going to happen.
Justin Herbert is shooting through the roof on his draft stock right now through his measurements at the combine this week at practice. He is standing at 6'6", is an absolute behemoth, exactly the type of build you want in your franchise quarterback. Like Gannon mentioned, he's been able to go out and win those big games. He was Roseville. He wins the Senior Bowl MVP. Just absolutely crushing it in general. But like he said, the small games is kind of where he makes his mistakes. Against the Sun Devil defense, which is kind of lackluster, you drop that game on national television with a shot of making the college football playoffs. That's the only kind of miscue that scouts can see in him. But all the potentials are there. The tangibles are there. So any team like the Chargers would be great to get him, especially, having Phillip Rivers not returning to the team after 16 seasons. A team that in the top 10 is probably the most talented and has a chance to make the playoffs or make a push. Just didn't really have an O-line or a quarterback this year. Moving on to the Carolina Panthers at number 7. A lot of questioning around this pick, but I believe they're going to go with defensive tackle Derrick Brown from Auburn. The Panthers have the greatest running back in the game right now. Their quarterback situation is a little flip-floppy. You don't know if Cam Newton's going to return. Is Kyle Allen or Will Grier going to take the reins? I could see them potentially trading up to try to get someone like Herbert. But if not, where it is right now, defensive tackle Derrick Brown is a great fit for that 4-3 front. Brown had a tremendous season at Auburn and is just going to make the complete difference for their lackluster run defense and fill the gap right there where they need it. Carolina Panthers take Brown at 7.
I think when you look back at when the Panthers made that big run to Super Bowl 50 with Cam Newton, the defense was a big part of it. Now Luke Kuechly's gone. You need someone else who is going to take over, and Derrick Brown is the type of interior rusher that can make offenses think twice about running the ball or even passing the ball. He has pass rushing ability. His measurables are going to be huge at the combine. I think his athleticism will shine through. He could fly all the way up to the top 5, I think, depending on how he performs at the combine. So snagging him at 7 here is a great move. Up next, got the Arizona Cardinals. We're here in Arizona right now, where we're recording this podcast, and I've talked to a couple Cardinals fans, and there seems to be a consensus. So right now, you could go offensive line. You want to protect your young quarterback. You've got Kyler Murray, who is going to be the face of the franchise for years to come now that Larry Fitzgerald is possibly moving on. You're going to see Kyler Murray jerseys around, like I was talking about with Tua earlier. Kyler Murray is going to be the guy here in Arizona for a long time. Do you want to protect him or do you want to provide him weapons? With Larry Fitzgerald coming back next year, you have a unique opportunity to provide a receiver to study under Fitzgerald for a season, and that guy is CeeDee Lamb. A lot of people say that Jerry Jeudy is the best receiver in this class, which is something that you could definitely argue, but the chemistry built with CeeDee Lamb and Kyler Murray at Oklahoma is something you cannot argue against. Chemistry is a huge deal in the NFL. I saw it as a Vikings fan when Kirk Cousins came on board. There was a 6 to 8 game window where he struggled to get on page with Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen. Now that that's there, he was able to carve up a Saints defense in the playoffs last year. So I think Cardinals are going to love to get a guy who can come in day one, understand what his quarterback's looking for, and still have the athletic gifts of a top 10 receiver. I expect CeeDee Lamb to perform really well at the Combine, and I think that he is going to be wearing red next year, and the Red C at University of Phoenix Stadium is going to absolutely love it.
I agree 100% there, again with you, Gannon. The debate between Lamb and Jeudy is still up in the air. They have the same measurements. Lamb has a little bit better in each category, but I think the Combine will really make or break these two receivers, and I think CeeDee Lamb's route running is just that much better than Jerry Jeudy. His route running is absolutely filthy. He's able to lose defenders off of the line And I agree with you. The connection is there from Oklahoma. Kyler Murray is going to get in and get him involved early. So, CeeDee Lamb, great pick. The Jacksonville Jaguars are on the clock next with the 9th overall pick in the 2020 NFL Draft. The Jaguars, I believe, are going to go offensive line here. They have a great running back in Leonard Fournette, who has up and down seasons. Last year, he was pretty solid for most of the games, but I believe adding some protection and some big bulkage up front will really help him evolve into a star that he has the full potential to become. So the best offensive lineman in this draft, I believe, is Tristan Wirfs from Iowa. He is a big, brooding force up front that can help Fournette plunge into the end zone or break free for 78-yard runs left and right. Tristan Wirfs is going to be picked by the Jaguars with the 9th overall pick.
He's a great pass protector as well, and he can help keep up whoever is starting at quarterback next year, whether it's Gardner Minshew, Nick Foles, or potentially an outside quarterback that they bring in. Tristan Wirfs is a great pick there, and I'm going to keep the run on offensive linemen going. Here at pick number 10, we've got the Cleveland Browns. They've got the flashy players in place. They've got some defensive players, Denzel Ward, Greedy Williams, great cornerbacks, and they've got a couple great pass rushers as well, with Myles Garrett coming back next year after a suspension. And then on offense, you've got Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Nick Chubb, potentially if they bring back Kareem Hunt. They've got all of the pieces at the skill positions in place. I think it's time to get to the nitty-gritty, and that is to keep your quarterback upright. Baker Mayfield needs to be able to perform at his highest level, and in order to do that, he has to have time to throw. So I'm going to go with the second best offensive tackle in this class, and really, you can rank these two in either way you want. Andrew Thomas is who I'm going with right here. He is an offensive tackle out of Georgia, and he was the top prospect in this draft for a long time. A top 4 prospect. A lot of people had him slated to the Giants at the 4th overall pick for a while this season. And I think if he slides to the Browns, that would be huge. A reliable piece, another Thomas on the offensive line for the Browns, potentially for the next 20 years. That would be great if he could stay healthy, because I know the Browns fans love Joe Thomas.
That's a great pick, and that's going to round out our top 10 NFL draft picks here on the Clock podcast. Thanks for listening. I'm Tyler Rohlfs.
And I'm Gannon Hanevold. Make sure to come back next time with some updated picks after the NFL Draft Combine.